Welcome to Creating Successful Blended Families. I'm Connie Durham with The Extraordinary Marriage, and I have been waiting a while to put this out because I have three kids and two of them have blended families. So I have seen firsthand the challenges that blended families have. And even probably 20 years ago now, I had two nephews that I raised for 3 years. And so I saw the challenges of bringing, somebody else's kids into your family. But the thing is, you and your spouse have gotten married. And so you want to bring your children together and you want to make a difference in this marriage. You don't want the same thing to happen that happened last time. So today we're going to look at how to build that supportive, loving marriage. And we are going to address some things that come between you and your spouse so that hopefully you can overcome them because you can't overcome anything if you don't know it's a problem. The second thing is when you get married that second or third time, you want to make sure that not only do you connect to your spouse, but you also connect to your kids. And you want the children to learn to accept one another, be friends, support each other, just like brothers and sisters. Sometimes that means a little frustration and a little havoc going on with brothers and sisters, right? But that's just natural. So today we're going to address five big hiccups that happen in blended marriages. Well, I'm a person who believes in keeping a positive outlook. So I want to share with you the way to happiness. Keep your heart free from hate, your mind from worry. Live simply. Expect little. I learned that from my mom. Give much. Fill your life with love. And then scatter some sunshine. Forget about yourself, think of others, and do as you would be done by. Try this for a week and you will be surprised. So here's the first hiccup that divides families. Number one, not letting go of past hurts. When we don't figure out, you know, past hurts caused future conflict if they're brought into the future. So things that hurt us, sometimes we hold that against our new spouse, or maybe it's trust or jealousy or expectations. And because we've been hurt in the past, we bring that forward and we're really guarded. The second thing is we're going to look at today is about dealing with that ex. Yes, dealing with that ex. You're not liking them so good. You don't have such great memories. And how are you going to deal with them now that doesn't cause division between you and your spouse? Number three, putting your spouse first. This is something that we often forget, and this causes division. Four, we're going to learn how gaining trust with our kids makes everything roll along better. And then five, we're going to talk about family collaboration. So the first thing is this: learn to let go of past hurts. That might be childhood trauma, things that happened to you before you were even married. And you have brought those hurts, those trust issues, those things you expect from your spouse. Maybe you keep expecting what you got in your childhood. Well, now you're in a different circumstance. And so you want to let go of those things and, bring some newness into this next relationship. There might be addictions in your life, drugs or sex or alcohol. Any kind of addiction may have crushed your past marriage, any kind of a addiction. This is your chance to let go of that and to move forward, but it's a choice. And maybe you had an absent spouse. They were never there for you, never supportive. And so now you're super guarded. You got to let go of that. Maybe you had a cheating spouse. Now that's a really hard one because if you had a cheating spouse, the trust issues between you and your spouse are already embedded into the next relationship, more than likely. And so some of the things I'm going to talk about today are going to help you let go of some of those things. We've got to learn to where to put our focus. And jealousy. Yeah. This also goes into personality styles. Some people are like really friendly with everybody, they're helpful and they're out there. Or, if you had past hurts, maybe your dad left your family or your mom left your family and then your spouse left you. And now, like jealousy, the ugly head of jealousy, you got to let go of past hurts. And that's the first place you got to start. It's letting go of those past hurts. And we do that through forgiveness. We have to learn to forgive. Some people have the hardest time forgiving. And when you bring those past hurts into your future relationship, your relationship you're in now, and you haven't forgiven the old hurts, it's like, just let it go. Let it go, right? If you don't let it go, it's going to haunt you in your next relationship. So forgiveness is something you want to work on. The second thing is dealing with that ex. I mean, let's face it, that relationship didn't work out so good for you. And so now, if you have children, you've got to deal with the ex one way or the other. Maybe they were not reliable. Maybe they were a liar. Maybe, you couldn't trust them. They weren't supportive and you're expecting the worst. But you have to put aside your anger because now you're moving on. Now you have something better. You have new hope. And you have to put aside the anger that you had for that spouse and not carry it in to your current spouse because they haven't done anything yet, right? You got to let go of those hard feelings and that mistrust. And yes, the despise. Because when a marriage ends harshly, it's really hard to let it go. But now we want to set the example. We want to set the example for our spouse. What do I want my new spouse to be like? Well, I want to be like that too. And that means I need to trust them and believe in them and support them. And all of this is better for the kids. So often when people are dealing with that ex, they have spite, they have anger, they have distrust. And when you've got to let your kids go and be with your spouse for the weekend, that must be the hardest thing there is to do. Trusting that spouse with your kids. But it's something the law says you have to do. And if you have to do it, you have to move on and have a better attitude and a better thought process. And that means those haunting thoughts, those fears that you have to just squash them and let them go because they're not going to do you any good. Dealing with the ex, you got to put away that frustration and then set the example for what you want in your next marriage. Galatians 5:22 and 23 says, I love this verse. Put the fruit of the Spirit, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. If we get stuck in the past, what that felt like, where that took us, then if we don't watch it, we'll create that in the next relationship. So we want to focus on where we want to go and look forward to where we're going instead of looking back. All right, so this second thing is put your spouse first. This might be the third thing. Put your spouse first. When we have children, we have housework, we have all the different kind of things that we do. Maybe we're working a full-time job. It's hard to always put your spouse first. But if we know about it and we think about it, and we know the importance of it, do we want our spouse to put us first? If you nodded your head, of course we do. So we want to make sure we put our spouse first. Doesn't matter if we're male or if we're female, we want to put our spouse first. And how can we do that? We want to be partners with them. We want them to be our ally. We want to work together, think together, do everything together, and support each other. We want to include each other in decisions. Sometimes, we're a hard head and we like to make all the decisions ourselves, and our spouse doesn't have any input. That's going to create a little bit of bitterness and frustration and not feeling like a part of the team. We want to be a team player. So we want to include our spouse in decisions. This keeps a lot of fussing down. We want to talk ahead and we want to plan. We want to talk about, what do we want our new family to look like? What kind of rules are we going to have for our kids? How are we going to parent? How are we going to discipline? And I'm going to get into that a little bit later. So we want to talk and we want to plan ahead. That means we want to be proactive so that we don't end up being reactive. And through these things, we want to focus on the positive. We want to focus on the positive. We want to look at where we want to go, how we want to do it, expect the best, do away with the old. And let's face it, your family's grown. There's more challenges, possibly even than there was in the last marriage. And you want to make sure you have date nights. And that sometimes that might be putting the kids to bed and you have something special that y'all do together. Planning those times of intimacy, planning those times of talking, planning those times where you actually go out and sit and have dinner together with nobody else around. Planning those date nights, putting your spouse first. Get to know each other better. And next, we have gaining trust with the kids. All right, let's face it. We have two families come together. This family did things that way. Your family did things this way. And, you're going to hear from the kids, hey, my mom didn't do it that way, or my dad didn't do it that way. Um, and our tendency is, of course, to favor our own kids. Yeah, that's true. We favor our own kids. Why? We gave birth to them. We raised them from the time they were little babies. We watched them grow. They were toddlers. They were, they entered elementary school. We saw them be funny and loving. And hey, we're just really attached to them. But the children from your spouse, there again, whether we're male or female, the children from your spouse, they've also come from another family and they may feel abandoned by a dad or a mom. They may feel, scared and frustrated. They've been jerked around just like you've been jerked around. Think about the feelings that you had when your first marriage busted up. It broke up, the hurt, the pain, the anxiety. Well, children have had those things too. They've had the rug pulled out from under them. And most of the time, we're so busy thinking about ourselves because we're just making it. We're just making it. And because of that, we haven't stopped to think about how the kids are feeling. Have you stopped to talk with the kids? So as you bring your two families together, you want to gain that trust with the children. So the golden rule is, do to others as you would have them do to you. Well, you know what? That even goes with children. So I always like to use the word respect. And if I am loving and kind and respectful of the children, I mean, they know our heart. They know what we're really thinking. That does it appear you like them? Does it appear they're a problem or a pain or you wish they weren't there? So the golden rule is treat them the way you want. I want to be loved, cared for, accepted, you know? And so I want to treat the kids that way. But the next thing is, but don't, I didn't need to fix that word. Don't bend over backwards. Don't bend over backwards. Often parents overcompensate with the other family, like the kids, like your spouse's kids. Sometimes they overcompensate. They let them get by with more. They don't reprimand them. They don't expect help from them. They don't, or they overcompensate in the way of, oh, my poor children. And now my kids have been through a hard time and they don't pay attention to the other person's kids. Or sometimes people have his, hers, and ours. And so they have some of their own children. So you have his children, her children, and our children. And the thing is, you don't want to bend over backwards for anyone. You just want to start with love and kindness and thoughtfulness and go from there so that everybody feels like they're treated equally. You want to be loving, but firm. This is the rules for everyone. And I care for everyone because I love my kids because I raised them, but I love you too because I understand what you've come through, what you've been through, and I love your dad or I love your mom. You want to find a positive in each kid. Find something that's great about that kid. Too often, the frustrations get our attention, and that's what we focus on. Instead, find a positive. What is something that kid does well? It might be that they smile all the time, or it might mean that they're helpful, and then they're very helpful with their siblings. It might be they pick up after themselves and they didn't even have to be told. What is it about that child? And as I said, equal treatment. So as we're gaining trust with kids, we want to find a positive about them and we want to have equal treatment. Then there's family collaboration. We've got the spouse. The spouse is being treated as number one. We're moving past these other challenges, and we want to teach our family to collaborate. I like to think of this as a team. TEAM, team. Together, everyone achieves more. Together, everyone achieves more. And as in the little picture here, we see it says working together increases the odds of winning together. And that's what we want to do, right? We want to win together as a family. As those kids come up through the years, we want them to feel accepted and loved. They want to feel like they're a part of the family. Everybody's happy. Isn't that really what we want? So when we are disciplining or working with the kids, we want to think about love first, discipline second. Now, I've raised three kids. I just had my 15th grandkid. Part of those are blended bonus kids, and part of them are natural born kids to my family. But love first, discipline second. And I've worked with tons of kids in kids choir. I taught ballet whenever for 20 years. And so I've worked with children tons and tons. Even when they're not my kids and I'm working with kids at church or something, I love them first and then I discipline. Because when you love the kids, they know it. They know if you really do like them, you really do love them. And then you can discipline because you love them. But if you discipline out of rules, and you discipline out of frustration or stress, or you're tired, or discipline just because, then your kids are going to reject you. Even if it's your own kids, they're going to reject you. So it's really important to love first and then discipline, because I do believe in being firm there, but love first and do it with love. Family collaboration. Both spouses need to be on the same page. Remember, you just came from different families. Hey, we all started out with our mom and dad, or maybe you had a single parent, and then you got married. Now there's your family, whether it lasted 2 years or 12 years or 22 years. And now you're in another family. So think about all the different things that come together to make you who you are and how you like to run your family. Well, both spouses are going to have very different ways, and it's important not to assume that you're thinking the same. So you want to make sure you're on the same page, when dinner is, who's supposed to do chores, who's supposed to, how kids are supposed to behave. So family conversations also help the kids feel like they're included. One of the things I did with one of my kids when they had a very large blended family, actually. When I was babysitting one night, I sat all the kids around and we all sat in a circle. My husband and I were doing it, and we sat in a circle, and I had all the kids take a piece of paper and put like everybody's name on it. Like, so like if there were 7 kids, there would be 7 pieces of paper with their name. So you have all 7 kids, do your multiplication, each one having 7 pieces of paper. They've got the name of one person above on each piece of paper, and they wrote something that they admired about that person. Yes, even if maybe that person had been a stinker and they hadn't been very nice, they were to write something nice about that person. Then we folded up the papers, and each person took their 7 papers and gave the correct one to each person in the circle. So each person then had let's see. Would that be 7 or they would have 6 because they're themselves? So they would have six little things to open. And I would have them open their 6 papers and speak it out loud. Speak out loud the good things that siblings and new siblings had said about them. Do you know what that does for somebody? We all we all need encouragement. We all feel like not enough too much of the time. And so it helped those kids feel better about themselves and to feel loved and accepted. And so when there's something going on in the family, it's good to share it with the family. So we all know what's going on and we work together. It is when things are hidden and not spoken, the elephant in the room, but nobody's talking about it, that people feel left out and like they are not a part. It's important to have that division of chores. I personally was not the best parent at getting my kids or making my kids. I didn't like to be on anybody's back, making my kids do. But you know what? Hindsight is like everything, right? It's important to have every single person do some kind of chore every week, I would say. Maybe it's like a 30-minute span and we all stop and we all do our chore at the same time. And so it's all getting done. Sometimes it might be 15 minutes if everybody's doing one thing, right? It makes it easier for the person who's in charge of taking care of the house and taking care of kids. If everybody helps a little. And guess what? Remember teamwork. Together, everyone achieves more. And when we're achieving things, it's like winning a trophy. We helped. We get that good feeling, and it teaches us to be a good human being. And the last thing is, it's important to have a caring heart. Yes, when we become too focused and we focus on the things that are frustrating us, we're not sharing them with our spouse, we're not being proactive on how we're going to parent and how we're going to create the new family that we have. All these things are even good if you've already had a blended family for 8 years and there's some challenges. Start using these ideas now. Roll this back, listen again, and write down the things that you need because there's probably some things you're doing and some things that you're not. Psalms 55:22 says, Cast your cares on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never let the righteous fall. As a blended family parent, it's like we need all the help we can get. And for me, I'm a God fearing person, God believing person. I have faith. And so I am thankful to have something larger than myself to believe in because God is good. I'm Connie Durham. I am in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia, and I believe in cultivating connection, understanding, and lasting love for an extraordinary marriage. I do private coaching, small group coaching. That might be a family who's having a bunch of trouble, like 4 people or 8 people or 12 people. And I also do events around my area. You can contact me, Connie at theextraordinarymarriage.com, or you can find me, www.theextraordinarymarriage. And you're listening to my podcast. I would love to hear from you. You can find free gifts on my website. Thank you and have an awesome day.